Hey, what's good? What's good? Oh, it's Coach Rashid, and I'm back for part two of that incredible a partnership that I talked about with the SEC that's partnered with on-chain. I'm talking blockchain, real high level, very sophisticated networks with the tokenization and real world asset focus. They are literally forming the partnership with the blockchain network they call Canton Networks. So I want to talk about Canton Network as, like I said, part two of this. The first part, we talked about the significance of um, real world assets, blockchain technology, and crypto, and how that is being adopted into the institutional financial world. Right. And I mean, 5 years ago, you just thought it was a micro strategy or a Galaxy Digital, Mike Novogratz or, you know, these guys, Michael Saylor. You just thought those guys were buying up crypto and talking about Bitcoin just because. No, they were serious about the future of blockchain technology and more focused on how it will affect the financial markets, the traditional financial markets. And if you paid attention back in 2019, 2020, then you would have been in a better position today to understand where this evolution is going. And so that's why I'm here is because I literally started educating people on blockchain technology and institutional adoption back in 2020 during the actual pandemic because, hey, I was at home and I wanted to really get the word out about like this blockchain, this crypto, Bitcoin, what is this phenomenon that I hear about? And when I started to dig in, I was like, man, this is great, right? But I knew that as the conversation moved forward, more from the institutional side, I said, this is something big that we need to pay attention to, right? And we have a lot of people that have these different schools of thought that, Bitcoin is really the grandfather or the grandmother of it all. And then we have somebody that comes in and thinks, hey, Ethereum really with their smart contracts is a better option. They are more utility based. Um, the autonomy is there with Bitcoin, but with a lot of other cryptocurrencies, there's not a lot of autonomy. You don't really, get the secrecy as you will. But when you're dealing with governments and you're dealing with money, you start tapping into those particular reserves, and they start to see, the investors peeling off. Then they're going to start to either, how can we either stop this or join this? And guess what they've done? They decided to join it because it makes sense, right? All right, so let's push forward. Let's jump in here and let me give you more information, like I said, about this partnership between the SEC, DTCC, and Canton Network being the first primary blockchain that they're going to work with in order to institute the pilot and going full-fledged into a large-scale contract moving forward to tokenize treasuries and securities and trading at the institutional level. Talking Wall Street, we're talking NASDAQ, we're talking New York Stock Exchange. We're going big. All right. So based on the research, I'm just elaborating on some of the articles that I, had read and was able to pull some great information out of, just to give you a summarized version of it, because obviously I'm not going to read, 10 or 15 different articles to you that give you so many different angles. I summarize all that so that I can bring you a condensed version in 15 to 20 minutes, right? That's why I broke it down into two videos. All right, so let's do this. Canton Network is the blockchain network that they are using, that they've selected out of all the serious and the strict requirements that I talked about on the last video. In the recent article that I pulled a lot of this information from, and I anyway on my I will give you the actual reference links in my presentation that I'm going to talk about when I kind of do a recap on 2025 and where crypto and blockchain has been and where it's going in 2026 and beyond. So you'll get all the references and all that, but they're really coming from the same place. So I want to just give you the summarized version here. All right, cool. So in a recent article, it was highlighted that there's a landmark shift in the U.S. financial landscape With the DTCC, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corp, moving to integrate blockchain technology directly into the core of the market. The core of this development is a strategic partnership with digital assets and the Canton Network to tokenize real world assets for the organization. Now, there's a strategic move, and there are some strategies that I want to break down for you. um, some of the developments that the DTCC made as requirements, as well as some of the some of the things that they're going to be doing in order to make this work. So let's shift into what those developments are by the DTCC. The DTCC is pivoting from experimental pilots to actual production ready infrastructure for tokenized securities. Yes, tokenized securities. Remember, securities, we're talking about the stocks, bonds, funds, commodities, metals, all those great things. Whatever can be traded, these are the type of things that they are using for this pilot as well as moving into the real deal. So there's partnerships with Canton Network and the DTCC has selected the Canton Network, a privacy-focused institutional blockchain, as the primary platform for its first large-scale tokenization project. Cool. Leadership in governance. So when we talked about the strict requirement, then they're not going to take their hand off of this particular project. They're not going to give it to some public player and then let them run with it. Definitely not going to happen. So what they're doing is in a move that signals its intent to shape global standards, DTCC will join the Canton Foundation as a co-chair alongside Euroclear, right? So they have two kind of oversight, bodies there. And this role allows DTCC to lead the development of industry-wide protocols for decentralized finance, or DeFi, which obviously we know that, in this space, DeFi is king or queen, whichever way you want to look at it. Now, there is traditional finance, of course, and there is decentralized finance. And so both of those are going to play a role in this particular pilot as well as this particular contract. The Composer X platform, this is key. If you ever do some research, look into this Composer X platform because that is really critical to what they're doing and how they're going to be able to aggregate all this data and monitor it as well. DTCC will utilize its proprietary Composer X suite to manage the life cycle of these tokens, facilitating the minting, burning, and tracking of assets on chain while ensuring they remain synchronized with traditional ledgers. All right. That is really the nuts and bolts of this thing. So, in order for it to be evaluated properly and see if they're going to be able to move forward with this, they must be able to freely, right, with all the control, see every step of the process and monitor every step of the process and interject wherever they feel that's needed. And so they are actually offering, this Canton Network, the blockchain, company, Composer X platform so that they can monitor every single aspect. So it's a safe, operation. So if you're looking at saying, okay, when all this happens, it's all said and done, and I want to be in a position to benefit from this, what can I do? Well, I'm going to talk about that towards the end of this. And that is focused on the Canton token as well. Didn't know there was a Canton token? Well, definitely something you want to listen to because that they're in a position right now with the largest settlement agency in the financial world. And with all of the funds that are being transacted under this umbrella, and now Canton Network is the sole provider of this process, this pilot, as well as this contract that's coming through, that they're going to offer a token, and that token is going to be attached to the massive level of movement in this industry, right? So let's talk about the timeline a little bit. So in phase one, they're going to be required to create their MVP, right? That is what we call H1 or the first half of 2026. So in the first half of 2026, they're looking to create the MVP or the minimal viable product, right, in a controlled production environment during the first half of 2026. This phase will focus specifically on tokenizing a subset of U.S. Treasury securities, which stocks, bonds, all the things that can be traded, right? So the first half, they're looking at here's my minimal viable product. You can create all of this within the Composer X platform that the DTCC is monitoring very closely. And we want to make sure that the U.S. Treasury securities that we're, using as the pilot or the trial period, we want to make sure that all this works together. Okay. So first half of 2026, they're going to get that MVP created and they're going to run this thing and see how it works. In H2 or the second half of 2026, the production will launch fully productive. Like the actual launch is going to happen. They're going to go live, flip the switch, and bam, DTCC is all over it, right? Making it happen. So full production is anticipated for the second half of 2026. At this stage, the service is expected to expand to other high liquid assets. What would that be? That would be the Russell 1000 equities and major index ETFs, right? The exchange traded funds. So you know that this year we've seen Bitcoin ETFs. So they got to get approval through the CME, right? The Chicago Mercantile what's that endowment or something. So basically, they had to get government approval to go ahead and run Bitcoin ETFs, Ethereum ETFs, Litecoin ETFs. There's a couple of others out there as well. So I know XRP, I think finally got some approval where you can run those. And so just to give you a quick, synopsis on when the ETFs are running crypto, you don't own that crypto. It's just like any other trading of a fractional trade on like an E-Trade or Robinhood or something like that. They are offering you a mirror trade, if you will, of what that actually is. They own some of the crypto, but you're only trading on the speculation of the crypto, if that makes sense to you, right? But I mean, it's trading is trading, right? So if you don't want to get your hands on it, and if you don't want to have to, create your wallet and collect the actual crypto, then that's okay. Bam, you can go ahead and use the ETFs, and you can earn just like that. So no worries. Um, Period. Authorization period. So they say the SEC's no action letter grants the TTCC a 3-year window to operate this pilot, during which time it must provide quarterly reports on participation and performance. And so what you're seeing here is they're going to have that first trial period, the first half of 2026. After they get everything, work out the kinks, then they're going to say, okay, here's the full production mode. You got access to all of the different, securities under the Treasury and, trading, any trade desk, whatever tiers you need. And now they're going to be doing really the lion's share of the settlements, the trading through a tokenized format, right? And so to make sure all that works, they're going to monitor them literally for 3 years because of the sheer volume and the sheer importance of what they're moving, right? So this is major, major shifts from speculation to adoption. This is really major, right, for crypto. So there are some operational safeguards that you would expect to be in place. So let's go over that for real quick. So despite the move to a decentralized network, the DTCC is maintaining strict oversight to protect the market. In other words, it's not decentralized, it's centralized. They're centralized within a decentralized network. Very interesting, isn't it? So DTC root wallet, we talked about that before. That is to address potential errors or malfeasance, any crazy, issues going on, anybody trying to slip one in on them and, create a back door where they can pull all the money out. Not going to happen with the oversight of the DTCC. That root wallet will override capabilities, will allowing it to force transfer or clawback tokens if necessary. So if somebody wants to steal something, guess what? DTCC says we got the root wallet, we got access. We're going to go in and we're going to find it and we're going to bring it back. Registered wallets have to be registered wallets to even participate with the DTCC program. What they call they're ensuring that all transactions remain within a compliant gated ecosystem. So, like I said, it is a centralized system. It is on a decentralized network, but it is a centralized system because the hawk eyes are on every piece of this. Preserved rights. We talked about this before as well. Assets moved on chain will retain the exact same legal and economic rights, including investor protections, as their traditional paper-based counterparts. And so that, like I said, that right there, this is so some time ago, you had some of the leaders in the industry, like I said, from the institutional side. And we know that Coinbase, their CEO took their company public, right? Gemini, the Winklevoss twins, they took their company public. Both of them have their own um, ticker signs. And so some people were like, why would you want to do that? If crypto is supposed to be outside of the government where it's peer to peer, where each person kind of, has a zero trust, where it's like, if you're part of this system, we know that the system is the one that pretty much controls the whole process. You submit, you say, I want, and somebody else on the other end say, okay, you want, 5 Bitcoin. I can send you 5 Bitcoin. As long as you two agree on that, then it goes right over the network, goes to the blockchain explorer, and it hits your wallet and everybody's happy, right? But we know in any world that human beings are there will be somebody that is trying to scam you, period. And so the systems are in place, like chain analysis, to really protect us with the AML checks. And you got the FINRAs and you got your FTCs and you have your SECs. You have all these oversight committees, and everybody wants to get a piece of the pie. And so when you have a Coinbase that is trying to facilitate the converting of fiat to crypto so you can involve yourself in investing in crypto opportunities, they too are monitoring every single aspect. And so what was said by a lot of the leaders, from the industry side, they still wanted to provide that crypto access between institution and everyday person, but they wanted to make sure that you were protected. And so they tried to do that on their own, but they had to charge so many fees for that. And so they actually were big proponents of, why don't we get guardrails put up through regulatory bodies that people already trust, right? And so somebody will say, hey, look, I'd rather put my money in a bank that gives me 0.05% a year than I would over here with this crypto that's going to pay me 1% a month. Sounds ridiculous from a investor perspective. And your ROI is obviously going to be bigger with crypto. That's proven every day. But the safety of having FDIC insured, if something happens, oh, I'm going to get my money, right? Well, if you got $1 million, you're only going to get 250,000 anyway from the FDIC. But the frequency of systems not working, the frequency of low quarterly profits is much higher, much riskier in an insured environment. So how can you argue with somebody that it's a better option, right? I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm not giving you investment advice. I'm giving you my personal perspective. How can you argue that it's better to put money into an insured environment when you may lose the whole year? Whereas you put your money over here where you have access to it in a crypto environment with guardrails up, right? Some government oversight. And if you have some impact, you may lose a little bit today, but you'll win tomorrow. You see what I mean? So, so it's hard to argue that this one is better than this one. And that's really my point. It's your personal preference and your risk tolerance. That's what really determines which way you go with it. It's definitely not this is better than the other. It's not that. Because we can prove both right, and we can show you why both need more analytics in order for a person to make decisions. Okay, so that's why I love the opportunities to create videos where I can talk about these things, and we do live sessions as well, because then you get the Q&A and everybody gets a better understanding of why crypto adoption is a good thing for the financial world really going forward, the banked and the unbanked. So let's go ahead and let's wrap this up. So, what is some direct market impacts when we're talking about the Canton token, right? We already talked about Canton Network. We talked about the DTCC and their partnership and what they're using, and they're doing all of the great things with the actual blockchain. Now, let's figure out, well, if Canton Network is kind of the sole body out here that's running this volume for the government, there's got to be some value in their token. The Canton token has major impact, and you definitely want to keep up with this. The partnership between Depository Trust and Clearing Corp (DTCC) and the Canton Network has a profound impact on the Canton token, which is CC. Right? I should have put that in the background. Yeah, I'll do that next time. So this is driving both into immediate market value and long-term utility expectations. Okay. Definitely, people are saying, oh my gosh, this is going to be huge. And they are right. Direct market impact, one, following the December 17th, 2025 announcement, the CC or the Canton token saw significant price increases, rallying approximately 27 to 42% within one single week, depending on the exchange that you were looking at. 27 to 42% that week. Boom. So we know that's going to be interesting moving forward. The market outperformance. This gain significantly outpaced the broader cryptocurrency market, with which remained relatively flat or saw slight declines. When you're looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum and the like, maybe the top five, they all were pretty steady or they start to decline when CC, which is a Canton token, went up 27 to 42%. The increased trading activity on that was significant. On-chain activity surged to over 500,000 transactions, and 23,000 active addresses were doing this within a 24-hour period. Wow. Canton token impact, right? This right here signal an immediate institutional and retail interest. So when you have something like chain analysis that tracks all of the crypto out there and all the activities, when they say that this is capturing retail interest. That's like your everyday person, right? And the institutional side, which is your professional traders, if it's attracting their interest, then they're looking into that. Like, oh my gosh, we see this one peaking. What is it doing? And so when they focus on that token, they give you these results: 500,000 transactions in 1 week. Oh, in 24-hour period. That's crazy, right? So that's why Canton Network was chose, because they are able to handle that level of activity. So let's talk a little bit more about the impact here. This is something that I mentioned early on, but I didn't really give you the full breadth of the volume. And that's what I'm happy that I found it, because I was saying it wrong anyway. The partnership fundamentally shifts how the CC token is perceived within the financial ecosystem, right? We're talking about the Canton token here. Institutional validation for that token is right in front of you. So if they've been looking for validation, this is it. A lot of times you see tokens that are, created and they're talked about and they're hyped up and all these things, and you don't know if it's going to work or not. Well, this one, obviously, 500,000 transactions in 24 hours, I think it's working. So as the DTCC processes, hear this. This is what I was trying to say yesterday, but I just totally couldn't figure out how to say it. DTCC processes over 3.7 quadrillion. Yes, that's quadrillion with a D. This is not trillion. This is not million. This is not bit. This is a quadrillion in annual transactions. That's crazy. Its selection of Canton as a super validator provides massive institutional validation for the CC token as a legitimate financial infrastructure asset. So if you ever wanted to put your focus on a cryptocurrency to plausibly earn something or some benefit from it, right? This is not financial advice. But if their blockchain is handling over 3.7 quadrillion in annual transactions eventually, right? Over time, I think they could be trusted to be creating something of value. Now, increased demand through usage. right? We know that's how it works. As a native utility token, CC is used to pay for the network fees, including the minting, burning, and transferring of tokenized U.S. Treasuries. Increased uses of the DTCC's pilot directly correlates to higher demand for the token. I don't even think I need to make any comments on that one. I think you get that piece, right? So, deflationary mechanics. Canton employs a burn and mint equilibrium. Network usage fees paid in CC are permanently burned, potentially offsetting new token issuance and creating a more sustainable economic model as network activity grows. Awesome. Capture of liquidity premiums. You're going to like this. By serving as the foundational force for a compliant, privacy preserving network, the CC token is capturing a liquidity premium generated by the institutional validation that public non permission chains often lack. They're getting extra because of the level that they're participating that you don't see normally through most institutional validation processes. With the market maker, with the liquidity provider, with an actual exchange, with the blockchain network, level one, level two, you definitely are going to have fees generated and people are going to make money off of that. In this one, they have a liquidity premium to do that. So you definitely want to look into that. Now, let's talk about the future outlook on this one. Production launch is 2026, right? The MVP or the minimal viable product is due to be live in the first half of 2026. Asset expansion, while the initial focus is on the US Treasuries, the planned expansion is to the Russell 1000 and ETFs, could exponentially increase the volume of transactions settled in Canton coins. Amazing. Hmm. So, the major takeaway here today, folks, is this: the Depository Trust and Clearing Corp, DTCC, those developments that the US financial system is moving from a theoretical blockchain pilot to actual production ready infrastructure for the world's most critical assets. The world's most critical assets run through and are settled by the DTCC, right? Now, in this closing, I want to say something that's like you really gotta get every piece of this. I know it sounds like Dave Chappelle when he was doing his closing, like a whole hour long closing. It's pretty cool. But mine is going to be much shorter. In this ultimate conclusion, I want to leave you with some key takeaways. Key takeaways. And I do want you to consider doing some research on that Canton Network token because that's going to be mind blowing. It's only offered on 3 exchanges right now. I wrote it down somewhere, but one is Gate.io, MEXC, and I think Bybit. And so, there are some challenges when it comes to the countries and the restrictions and things like that. But if you have the ability to get it, might be a good idea. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, not today. So you kind of have to do your research on that. By choosing the Canton Network for its first large scale project, the DTCC is effectively endorsing a gated and regulated blockchain model that prioritizes institutional privacy and regulatory oversight over the open public nature of typical crypto networks. So here's what this partnership really gives you, right? And that's what I want to give you some key points. So if you want to document this, then great. First thing is real world utility. Tokenization is no longer just a crypto trend, but a core strategy for the DTCC, which handles, let me remind you, 3.7 quadrillion in annual 3.7 quadrillion dollars. This is dollars. I'm just trying to make sure you understand. This is 3.7 quadrillion dollars in annual transactions to modernize the US Treasury market. So they're using tokenization, right? Which has become a core strategy, not a side play with crypto. This is a core strategy. Tokenization is a core strategy that will be used to modernize the US Treasury market. You got to get on in it. You just can't let this happen and not be part of it, right? And I'll talk about what you can do, to be part of it. Another thing is the new era of liquidity, right? If we kind of understand liquidity, that basically means I can get my money. Simple as that. The integration creates a single pool of liquidity where assets can move seamlessly between traditional finance and decentralized finance without losing legal or investor protections. That is always going to be a question. Literally, every program that I've done, when I talk to people, and I do a lot of one on one, right? And I talk to people just to really give them that respect. So there's no clutter. It's just let me understand you, you understand me, and then we move forward as a team. Somebody just the other day hit me up and said, "Is this program safe?" And I say that to say this. Here is an organization that has decided at the highest levels of government, at the highest levels in the nation, and really affects so many around the world. They literally are the largest settlement agency for any financial trading product out there, right? And they incorporate into this particular statement. The integration creates a single pool of liquidity, whereas assets can move seamlessly between TradeFi and DeFi without losing legal or investor protections. So yesterday I talked about it. Earlier today I talked about it. One, they have the same ID. So in the system, it doesn't know if it's crypto, if it doesn't know if it's traditional. All it knows is this particular trade, this particular asset coming through Treasury, if it's gold, if it's stock, if it's a bond, if it's ETF, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's going to be treated the same way, have the same protections as you would get in the traditional side. You get it with the blockchain side. So this really brings us into that adoption factor that 2026 is the year of adoption, right? So infrastructure and what is it? Infrastructure. This is not the previously it was about infrastructure or kind of ideology. They've taken infrastructure and elevated it, saying we got to build the right system and then incorporate everything else. So this is what they're doing with the Canton Network and DTCC. The DTCC's leading role as the co-chair of the Canton Foundation signals that the future of digital finance will be industry-led and highly regulated rather than fully decentralized and permissionless. Some years ago, people really believed that, hey, crypto is coming, blockchain is here, it's decentralized. And that's what blockchain is, literally a distributed ledger network, right? Distributed ledger technology. So basically meaning that nothing is centralized, everything is spread across. So if somebody attacks 49%, they don't get the whole network. They can't steal all your funds. They got to have 100%. So it was making sure that every block was separated, blockchain, right? There's a chain, there's a Genesis block, and then you have all these supporting blocks, and that created the chain, right? Block after block after block. And everybody's, oh my gosh, that is so secure, which it is secure. But unfortunately, hackers always show up and they create havoc. So this is where infrastructure becomes key, but they got to have it highly regulated because they just can't trust it to be done on its own, but which is a great thing. Basically, those are the guardrails that need to be put up. And they said highly regulated rather than fully decentralized and permissionless. Permissionless obviously is public. Permission is private, right? Permission to mean you got to have some type of code, some type of security apparatus in order to access that information. You just can't just show up like a Zoom call, right? So let's close it out with market validation. This particular Canton token that's associated with the DTCC and Canton Network partnership, the immediate and sustained rise in the Canton token price reflects the market belief that this specific network is now a primary backbone for the next generation of global financial infrastructure. So, with that being said, right, yesterday I talked about the partnership, talked about the adoption, from the blockchain and crypto to real world assets and tokenization. What is going to get us to the new century? What is going to take us into the next era? That is the tokenization of Treasury, securities, and everything within. This is where we're at. This is not where we're going. This is where we're at. And this is where we're going to continue to move to the right. If you want to win in 2026 and beyond, you really need to grab a hold to education that's giving you this information, giving you what the institutions are doing, because that's where your money is. And if the institutions are shifting what your money is doing into tokenization, why don't you get ahead of the game and shift into tokenization? Right. So I say that to say this. I'm going to close it out, but I want to leave you with something. Tokenization of real world assets, it doesn't get any more real than physical property. We have an organization that supplies a platform that brings you real properties across the globe. Those real properties, right, or cash flow positive properties. They are selected. They are premier properties in premium locations around the globe. We're talking Miami, we're talking high rise, we're talking, condos, we're talking villas in LA, we're talking about Dubai. We got land developments, just everything that you want. You got the ocean side properties, you got lake side properties, which are obviously different, right? You could be in the mountains, have a nice lake, privacy, land, good time. You can be at the ocean and have a beachfront property. We have both. So all of that is included. And guess what? If you compare, hey, I want to be part of this new tokenization of real world assets and I want to benefit from it. Well, guess what? Get in touch with me and I will be happy to break that down for you and how you can benefit from it. The other side of it is I'm into traditional real estate and I like it and I want to keep doing it. What's this tokenization thing about? How is that mixing? Is it going to help my real estate business or is it going to encroach upon my real estate business? It's definitely not going to hurt it. People will continue to buy houses. That's what the tokenization of real estate assets benefits from. When somebody buys a house, somebody buys a condo, timeshares, whatever they want out there, vacation homes. If they want to tokenize that, which a lot of people are doing nowadays, then our organization that we are affiliated with is going to, be in touch with that, help them tokenize that. And then even that particular owner can earn from the tokenization of their property, just like we do. This is how powerful this is. This is the tokenization of financial instruments. We're talking about tokenization of real world assets on the physical side, but they both work together. And I implore you to get more information about it. And I'm happy to set up a call. I do calls pretty much every week about this tokenization of physical assets, real estate. Um, this is the way to go. And so I'm very excited about where we're headed. I love the fact that this is a topic of conversation. I love the fact that I came across the video and I saw the article and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really happening like right now. And so I said I better get this information out to my audience. So look, if you got any questions for me, definitely get in touch with me. We can have this conversation. I don't do this from a financial, an investor, advisor perspective. I do it because I'm passionate about really building a real estate portfolio for myself, which obviously equates to a massive wealth increase. But at the same time, I know others can benefit from this as well, right? So definitely take a look at it, review this information. If you got questions, get in touch with me. Definitely like, share, other people may need to know about this. Subscribe to the channel so you can get more information like this because this is the new year, it's a new day, and you may see things coming through that pop up, in your feed that is necessary for your growth, from a financial perspective or even, from a personal perspective. All right. So that's it for me. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for riding with me, and I will see you on the next one. All right. Peace. Y'all take care, and I'll see you again. All right. It's all good.